Hey, let's chat.
This time on Hey, Let's Chat, we have Davina Mackail. She's an author, shamanic coach and healer, and dream expert. Her message urges us to connect with Mother Nature in an exchange of love and gratitude. Hello, Davina. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks, Tynan. It's lovely to be on your show.
Nice. Did you have a religious upbringing?
It's a difficult one, that. It wasn't overtly religious in terms of I wasn't brought up a strict Catholic, although I almost went to a convent school and luckily escaped. However, it was, I was confirmed. It was Church of England. We were made to say, my grandparents were very strict on making us say our prayers when we were kids, before we went to bed, that kind of thing, but no more than that. And I have to say I didn't go to church formally again once I was confirmed at around 13, 14. I don't know why. Obviously, the trauma of being confirmed was enough to put me off religion for life. So, yes.
That's similar to me. I was raised with the whole Catholic thing, and then what's funny is about confirmation is that they have you do it around the age when you're just about to start asking questions, right?
Exactly.
So, how do you think that ties into your philosophy today? Do you still keep that? No.
It doesn't tie into my philosophy today, to be honest. I've spent most of the rest of my years disabusing myself of the patriarchal religious states that govern and abuse the power in this world. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't say it's influenced, other than bringing that to light. But what's fascinating about it is those, of course, when we are children and young, we are so deeply influenced. That's when our programming happens, our conditioning. Mm-hmm. So despite my rational sort of awake, conscious adult mind sort of saying, yep, I don't believe in religion. I see it as something very different from spirituality. I see that very much in terms of social control, abuses of power. I think it's good for people to have faith in things. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, but in so much of the way it's used in the background, I don't think it's clean, shall we say. Mm-hmm. However, I don't think it's as simple as that, because we are influenced by those early situations, however awake and however much our subsequent beliefs change. So, for example, if you were brought up quite strict Catholic, I'm sure still today, despite your awareness and whatever, you have guilt issues, for example. Like, oh my God, I've sinned, I've done something wrong. Mm-hmm. Oh, that wasn't a good thing. You can't help it. It's in there. It's almost like in your cellular DNA. And that's what we have to be very awake to constantly. And that's a constant process. Mm-hmm. So I suppose in the way it has influenced me is really looking at where the patriarchy, because most religion, if we look at it, is very patriarchal in its setup, formalized religion.
Yeah.
So it's really being aware of how that has influenced and does continue to influence all decisions, all the things we do in life.
Very true. Yeah. For me, it's you can still find myself saying, thinking of God as a he. For me,
exactly. Yeah, even for me. You still just getting that image of a big bright bloke with a beard out of your head is quite hard. That could take a lifetime just on its own. And whilst, of course, I don't rationally believe that, I don't have any concept of that, it does influence those deeper unconscious beliefs and patternings in us.
Mm-hmm. I feel like still with a lot of people, no matter what religion you are, I still feel like a lot of people think of God or source as something external. How do you...
Exactly. I don't... Yeah, it's that spark of divinity with us. I don't see the separation in that. Spirit is inside and all around us. It's both.
Yeah, that's what I've been going through recently, is trying to break that down and know that source is within me. And you're a shaman. What made you make that transition, or how did that...
Believe me, when I went to school, shamanism wasn't on the list of here's your list of careers to choose from. Shamanism found me. I didn't find it. I don't know. I've always had interesting abilities. When I was a kid, I could always see spirit, but I don't think that's unusual. I think most children have that ability, but it's not encouraged.
Right.
And it's shut down a lot. So I went on quite a big adventure in 1992, part of which culminated me in hitching along the highest road in the world to Lhasa in Tibet. And I nearly died on that journey of altitude sickness. And a lot of shamanic calling does come through a near-death experience, or actually having an initiation of some particular indigenous culture's devising, or you're kind of called. I think that was an early calling. I didn't know what it was at the time. But interestingly enough, it definitely woke me up. I was interested. I mean, it was a very extreme trip all round, and amazing adventures were incurred. And I think coming back from that, it woke something else up. And then I met my first shaman in actually the most unlikely of places, in a place called Reading in England, which is not the place you'd expect to find a Peruvian shaman. But I was on my feng shui training, and he came to teach us about this wonderful place, Wayland Smithy, which is a burial site in Wiltshire. And we were doing some ceremonial work there, and some real magic happened. And I just thought, I want to know what he does. So I worked with him, Alex Stark, for some years after that. And then that has gradually led to other shamans coming into my life and working with different shamans. Okay. I mean, it's as much, I mean, somewhere it's woken up something very deep in me, because it's so natural to my, I mean, I may not, I might be a white Western woman, but it's just that work is like, it feels like it is the core of me.
Right.
And I also want to just clarify what shamanism is from my perspective, because it's not a religion.
Right.
I think that's really important to make clear. It is really a way of being. It is much more about understanding the reciprocal nature of our relationship with all that is. It's what we've just talked about, the inside and the outside. It's that sacred exchange. In the Quechuan language, they call that Aini. And it's like nothing goes one way. Mm-hmm. And there's that constant interactive. We inhale, we exhale. That constant ingoing and outgoing of breath. So there's been a lot of, I think shamanism is now a cover-all term that sort of seems to sum up a lot of things that I wouldn't personally call shamanism. But that's always the way in any area of life. So I think it's important to just sort of clarify some principles around that.
You were with the Keru Indians in Peru?
Yeah, the Keru Indians are direct descendants of the Inca.
Okay.
In Peru. They come from the high Andes. Mm-hmm. So it's high mountain shamanism. There's 3 types of shamanism in Peru, mainly that I know of. There's the high Andes Keru tradition, then there's the more coastal region that tends to have a more open mesa type scenario, and then there's obviously working with the plant medicines down in the Amazon.
Have you done the plant medicines? Yes. Mm-hmm.
A lot. I mean, I've worked with that way of being because again, I didn't choose it, it chose me.
Mm-hmm. What kind of experiences do you have?
That's impossible, Tynan. It's so individual and it's so mind-blowing. There's such extreme intelligence in plants. We came from plants. Mm-hmm. That's ultimately how humans ended up on this planet. And we have plant consciousness within each and every one of us. It fits in with our pineal gland, our pituitary. All we're doing is all the substances in the plant medicines are already inside our bodies. But the blood-brain, has to have something that crosses the blood-brain barrier in order to be able to access. So I don't think those medicines do anything other than wake us up to what's already there, really. Mm-hmm. It's just we're mostly blinded to it.
Right. The pineal gland... Most humans now just don't exercise it so that it's dormant, and a lot of us are kind of closed off, and the veil is so strong on us is because we haven't been able to use the pineal gland.
I don't think we're taught how to, are we?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, we're not. It's not in our education system. I'm not really into conspiracy theories, but if you start looking at it, you could get into them. It's hard to believe. We don't really have a world that supports the development of consciousness and higher awareness, in my opinion. We have a world that supports rationality and the development of science and fact.
Right.
Far more. That's a gross generalization inevitably, and that's why there's such a big move, because the pendulum swing towards that scientific proof has become so onerous that, of course, the pendulum's bound to swing the other way towards an increased level of spirituality, shamanism, and different things coming to aware. And of course, the internet has just woken has given us the speed of information dissemination that creates bubbles of all people's interests now in a different way. I mean, it'll be very interesting to see how this next generation really kind of grounds and settles and integrates those energies. Mm-hmm. Because there's such fast speed of movement now, and our world is very different, and we haven't really fully adjusted yet.
Right. So I wanted to ask about the whole mind calendar thing, and how do you feel about that, the whole consciousness shift that we're still going through right now?
All of the indigenous cultures hold prophecies of this being the shift of the ages. They may just talk about it in different forms or talk about it within different symbology, but there isn't probably anyone that isn't talking about this golden age, this new age, this shift in consciousness, this massive, because we are, if we even look at it astrologically, we are in the shift of the ages. We have just completed a 26,000 year time cycle, and that's always, if we look back in history, precipitates great change. And that's what we're experiencing. So my belief, my hope, my optimism for the future in terms of that is very much I would love to see, and this is what I believe is possible, and I think one of your other questions you mentioned something about telepathy. This is really where the age of telepathy is possible.
Okay.
I mean, we are moving into the Aquarius age. But the thing is, here's the thing, Tynan, with telepathy. You can't have secrets. Because we are so used to, I don't want anyone to think I'm thinking a bad thought. Oh, my God, I think they look crap in that dress, but I'm not going to say it. How can you have telepathy if you think like that? It's because that's the barrier. We have to have completely and utterly open minds and no secrets in order for telepathy to actually breed.
Right.
I mean, I've certainly experienced telepathy within plant medicine. It's one of the things that plant medicines give you. And it's profound and it's easy within that context.
So, is it that you're able to just pick up on someone else's thoughts, or do they?
No, I can have a conversation like I'm having with you, but there are no words taking place.
Right.
So we are just sitting here looking at each other, and I'm completely answering your questions, and I'm hearing what you're asking me in the language that I need to hear it in. And I've had kind of proof of that in terms of actually requesting something telepathically, and then seeing the person immediately do it, as in to prove to me, yeah, I heard you, and here it is.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I did a past life regression, and I don't know if you know much about the Sufi philosophy or tradition.
Yeah, I know a little bit.
So pretty much I had a past life that during the 15th century, and I was speaking to a whatever you would call it, a shaman for that time, and we were speaking telepathically, and I just thought that was so crazy. I was like, if I could do it, and if I had done it in another life, then hope it's possible. So that kind of,
it is without doubt possible. It's really what we need to be waking up to. But again, there is a big barrier.
Right.
And that barrier is we have to get used to sharing of our deepest selves. We have to get used to feeling safe of being everything that we are, vulnerable, strong, powerful, weak, all of it. Mm-hmm. Because only when we get to that no secrets, no hold bars, is that really possible. Right.
How soon do you see that happening?
Right, we're in it, who knows? Right. I mean, that's really up to us, isn't it? I already have it. All I need to do is develop it. You already have it. You've already had it in a dream. So all you need to do is develop it more. So there are people on this planet that already have that now. And increasingly so. So it's here. And it's like, the good old tipping point, 100 monkey syndrome. Once that morphic resonance has grown to a large enough vibration, then it will have a tipping point and everywhere. That will spread like wildfire.
Nice.
So we have to get to that tipping point. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm. So you're into a lot of dream things, and you wrote your book, A Dream Whisperer. I've been really getting into trying to write my dreams down, and it's quite exciting how I'll see a little symbol and it totally represents kind of what I've been going through. When did you start getting into dreams more than just, oh, that was a crazy dream? What was it for you?
That's a good question. When was that? I suppose really I've always been interested in them, but you're right, just not. And that probably was my shaman. I know exactly when it was. It wasn't that. It was to do with feng shui. That's right, because somebody said to me, one of my teachers, who I would honour if I could remember who it was, but I had a lot of teachers in those days. So somebody said, when you're going to do a feng shui consultation on a house, ask for a dream first, the night before, to give you some insight into the client. And I used to do that. I mean, of course, I'm quite literal, so I would literally sleep with the client's floor plans, notes, everything under my pillow. I really believe in sleeping on it. It works a treat. Especially before exams, always sleep on your notes. It really helps you in exams. It's good. Anyway, what I found to be true was that when I woke up, I would have a dream because I'd asked specifically for it. And it would sometimes it made sense in the moment, but most often it might make sense during the consultation when I was at the house. And then suddenly it'd be like, oh, this is the dream. Now I get it. And it would give real insight into working with that client, because of course when you go up to somebody's house, you're dealing with like 360 degrees of their life, but you're really trying to focus in. You can't do it all, so you're trying to focus into the one linchpin that's going to unplug to create, like as William Morris said, home is metaphor of the self. So there's normally one story, and if you can uncover the story of the person in relationship to their environment, then you can really help them. That's the point of transformation. So the dreams would really help pinpoint the focus of that. And that's when I became curious and started to research, thinking, gosh, this is really interesting. This is real information and it's working. Why? How?
So I like how you were able to talk scientifically about it and also spiritually. So would you say sometimes with those kind of dreams that you're able to tap into your higher self, or would you say that, or is it something else?
Well, this was curious to me. That's why I called the book The Dream. I mean, everyone thinks I'm the dream whisperer, but actually the dream whisperer is who's the person that whispers the dreams in our minds every night. Mm-hmm. We think, God, that was so weird. I could never have imagined that, or whatever. Where are those dreams coming from? Where are those whispers of our nighttime mind coming from? And I think the answer to that question is multivariate, to be honest. I don't think dreams are an easy... there are no definitive, that's the way it is type answers. There are a number of different... And I've had dreams. To give you an example, it's probably best if I give you an example because it's quite hard to explain. So, I've had a dream that will make sense on a very prosaic, I can see what I did yesterday that's triggered that dream, for example. We've all had those day residue dreams. It's because I watched so-and-so on TV last night. That's why I had that dream, those kind of things. Right. So it will make sense on that very basic level. If I look at it symbolically, it will also make sense on a much more metaphoric level of understanding my own psyche within that moment of my life. But then that very same dream, years later, can also become a prophetic, precognitive fact. And I suddenly find myself in a situation thinking, oh my God, that's that dream I had. So that's one dream. And I think many dreams work in that way. So their purpose and the way we work with them is quite multifunctional. Okay. So it's a game. It makes life fun. I mean, God, we're so lucky as humans. We get to dream. How marvelous! I mean, dreams are great. Right. Good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, they're an amazing way for us to deal with our psyche and really bring ourselves into wholeness.
Mm-hmm. You want to share any interesting dreams you've had recently, or?
Oh, I always have interesting dreams. One of my favourite, I'll show you one of my favourite dreams, was my job. I was an intergalactic planetary investigator. And I know, what a great job. I want that on my business card. And I was on this planet governed by love. And I was in this circle of trees with the Council of Elders, and I was collecting plant samples and things, sort of quite scientifically. And I was asking them, I said, well, how does it work here? How do you govern this planet? And they said, well, try and think about something that you would normally kind of, that's upset you recently or you're having an issue with or whatever. Just think about that now. And it was so weird. It was like, even within the dream, it was almost kind of lucid. It was like this planet was governed by this force that was so different from this. I couldn't think in the same way that I could think normally in waking lucidity. And that actually shifted within the dream. It's great.
Wow, that's cool. I had a dream like a couple weeks ago. All of a sudden I see some gangster guys, really tough guys, and they're riding a purple dragon. And it was really silly, right? The next day we go to a beach, okay? And we see these kids that looked on the gangster's side, just not your normal type people that would be flying a purple dragon kite.
Lovely.
So those little things for me, I feel like sometimes I have psychic dreams. Have you?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that potential and that possibility. It's just, again, it's like if the veil was removed, the only reason it isn't in some ways is we'd all be overwhelmed with what we could truly see. Right. It would be too much if we could see all of it all at once.
That's true. Very good point.
We wouldn't get much done, would we? like the rabbit in the headlights, thinking, help.
Nice. What about astral travel? Do you feel like sometimes in your dreams you tap in other realms?
I mean, it's certainly possible, and from a shamanic perspective, shamans certainly, most traditional shamanic cultures believe that, that you are going through, that when you're in a dream realm, like a dream is a particular realm, it's a physical place. And certainly if we start to look at, even science is catching up with this, with the whole multiverse and different dimensions. So even, you know, this is what I love, is that science and spirituality are inevitably, inexorably being drawn into an integration. They can't help themselves.
Right.
Because they are, ultimately, we're one and the same, aren't we? There is only one.
Right.
So, you know, and there's a very brilliant piece of ancient medieval theology that explains this very well. It's called the mandorla, and it's actually the almond. It comes from an Italian word for almond. And the mandorla is the central little almond shape in the Vesica Pisces, the two intersecting circles. And the medieval theology, the teaching of that is very important, that central piece, because most of us live with the unbearable contradiction of this or that. Right. I can have this or I can have that. It's black or it's white. It's hot or it's cold. You know, it's always that. But that centre bit, it's this and that. And if we can live within the suffering of paradox, you know, there's sort of like, and there's a comfort if we can hold paradox easily within us, and that's really our job as human beings, I believe. And then we, of course, get to that third point of transcendence.
What's happened with me, and I feel like it's happening with a lot of people, is when we're, like you were saying earlier, we're kind of stuck with, I need scientific proof.
Yeah.
And there's that one side. And then there's the side that's completely religious and based on faith. And I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I got to choose one.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt. But it's all about, like you're just talking about, the integration of it.
It is. We have to hold both. And it's only through holding both that we'll really evolve, and at a far faster speed. You know, it really comes down to, but even life's very simple, really. It is just the inhale and the exhale at the end of the day. You know, we learn everything we need to learn about life through that, just by looking at the basic processes. Like, people talk about the law of attraction, you know, how to manifest. I mean, look at the reams that have been written and whatever. But, you know, manifestation, just look at how a baby turns up on the planet, right? Desire, that's the first spark. Now, desire has intended and unintended consequences, as we all know. So does manifestation. We sometimes get what we manifest, we sometimes get what we didn't think, but we're always consciously creating it through our desires. And how desire, the spark, the fire of desire, how it hits with the flow of water. I mean, everything's the same. It all follows the same pattern. So I think we could make our lives a lot. So we get very bogged down. That's the problem, is when we get specialised. When we get too down the rabbit hole of the niche or the specialism or the things of that nature, then we forget to stand back and see that more holistic approach of just like, well, where's an example of this in nature? Where's an example of how this process just works naturally? Because we will always find those examples.
Right.
Like, another interesting concept, very similarly, is to really understand our personal relation. You know, there are these trinities of effects. So we've talked a lot in this conversation about religion, God, you know, whatever you would like to call it. And it's an interesting observation. I've worked a lot with clients with this, that we have like Father Sky, Mother Earth. You may have different terms, but we'll just try and keep them neutral and call it that. And then there's human beings. So there's that kind of trinity. But if we look, that's the same as mum, dad, kid. So really, when we look to our personal relationships with our father, they are how we would describe our relationship with our father is probably exactly our relationship with spirit, higher self, at a deep level. That fundamental lack of trust, maybe, or feeling, you know, devoted on, or whatever. And our relationship with our mother is directly relationship to how we feel supported, fed, nourished by the earth. You know, and being able to keep a roof over our head, just allowing ourselves to receive comfort in life.
Right. I like that. What are your thoughts on channeling other beings, being able to...
It's certainly possible. I've seen it happen, and I've seen fraudulent cases, and I've seen absolutely authentic cases. What can I say? There's good and bad in everything, and that's the problem. It's not all to be believed. You know, one has to always have wise discrimination.
Right.
Particularly when we're walking along these fields that we walk.
Yes. What about angels and other... Have you had
I work quite a lot with the Tree of Life, and certainly from the more traditional mystical system of that, which definitely relates. For me, all of these things, archangels, Jesus, Buddha, Hare Krishna, all of them, they are consciousnesses. They are levels of consciousness. Mm-hmm. So they are energies that we can tune into usefully, really request help from, get support from, feel at peace with. So yes, all of those, like the elemental, I don't think of fire without also thinking of the animated spirit of the fire, the fire spirit, if you like. It's living, animated presence. Same with water, same with air, same with earth. So why wouldn't there be archangels? Why wouldn't there be different hierarchies of presence, really?
Right. All right, just like the last couple ones. What about certain ancient civilizations like Atlantis and Lemuria?
I have had, through past life meditations, things like that, direct experience. But is it direct experience? Is it my cellular memory? Is it my imagination? Who knows? You know what I mean? In terms of experiencing being there, and Atlantis more than Lemuria. I think they are realms of consciousness that exist. And they are energies, if you like. Because it's quite interesting, because you could also see Atlantis and Lemuria exactly the same as our conscious and our unconscious mind. It's symbolically true, because Atlantis was very much into the science, the technology, the sort of, rational explanation for the way they're beings, whereas Lemurians were all leaping around the trees, getting into their physical prowess and going with those unconscious, more instinctive desires, and less on the intellectual base. So if you look at it there, what is that? Is Lemuria and Atlantis simply a metaphor, a mythological metaphor for the relationship between our conscious and our unconscious?
Cool. Well, do you want to say anything as we wrap up here?
It's very much just don't disconnect. We've become very denatured. So it's really about connecting to the trees, the earth beneath your feet, the air that fills your lungs, the sunshine on your face, the wind and the rain of just actually we are part of this planet. And really, really loving that relationship. Because when we really deeply love that relationship with the earth, she really loves us back.
Nice. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's valuable.
Pleasure, Tynan. Lovely to talk to you.
Nice to talk
like
to
your
you.
energy. Enjoy. Good luck.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.